Welcome back to Tech with TV. I am Nikunj Ladani, and I know you have been curious about converting that $1 to $1,000, right? Because great design leads to great customer experience. Now, before we jump into the process of designing whole great products, right, to convert from $1 to $1,000, I need you to pull out your curious cap because curiosity is the most important element in the process, right? Because everyone can solve the problems which are visible. You see a chair upside down, you go and just make it right. You see something is wrong somewhere, you go and try and solve that. But what we will be discussing about is solving the problems which are invisible. There are many examples by great designers about all the processes to solve these problems, and there are many processes how to approach designing a great product. But let me introduce two or three magical Ds which we will be talking about in our lecture, which is discover, define, and design. The first step, discover. Now we all want to solve the problem in a right way, which we are doing, learning this whole process about designing great products. But with proper research, you will find that right problem to solve. So, to state it in a simpler language, before we decide in which way we are going to solve this problem, we need to understand which problem we are going to solve. So before we solve the problem right, we need to identify the right problem to solve. So in this first step, you need to ask questions and more questions. So similar to Paresh Rawal in some Bollywood movie, he keeps asking questions. So instead of annoying people by asking questions, you take inspiration and try and discover the problems which users are facing by asking a lot of questions. That is first step, discover. Now let's go to the second step, which is define. Now why are we discovering a problem and then we are going to define a problem and then discover? Why not directly go to design and we can do that? Because we need to define our problems again in a right way. Now the third step, which is defining the problem. You asked a lot of questions to the users and you discovered that these are the problems which your users are facing. Now the very next step after you got the answers of a lot of questions is the define stage, right? Why do we need to define all the problem statements? Because you already know that. So define, as I said, right? If you have 1 hour to cut the tree, you spend 45 minutes just sharpening the axe. What does that mean? You keep asking questions, drill down the problem statement and define that problem statement in as much detail as possible. Why do we need to do that? Let's take an example. Let's take this duster for an example. Now this duster works very well. You write down few things, you just erase it and write it again and erase it and blah 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 etc etc. This works fine. Now if you have your curious cap still on, what other problems a person will have with this duster? Right? There is a marker holder on this duster, for example, in this duster. Let's go a step beyond this. There were no marker holders in other dusters. How did someone actually thought of putting a marker holder on this duster? That is where your curious cap comes in. Now this duster is not sticking on this table. There are many dusters I am sure you must have seen which are magnetic dusters which sticks on the board. Because the problem was to put the duster again back and forth, from the board to the table, from the table to the board. So this is the whole process of designing and finding the problems and defining it, right? So this again, let's again come back to this duster. Now this is not giving me any problems right now because I don't have a curious cap on. But let me just wear it back and see that okay, what other problems with this duster will have. I will say, for an example, if I am going to hold this duster like this, it is very rectangularish. It does not serve my hand right. So there are many dusters you must have seen which has a very curvy shape, which actually fits in your hand and it gives a good grip. So that's how you see a problem. It may not be a problem for majority public, but it is a problem for a lot of people. And that's how you must see these latest mouse designs which you see. There were like this big mouse when the mouse was invented. And today the mouse are getting compact and it fits your palm very well. So they are not visible. The problems with this duster are not at all visible. But if you have your curious cap on, you will see a lot of problems with the duster and you can design it. now that you have defined your product, right, you have a two-page documentation about the definition of the problem statement which you are going to solve. That is the outcome of the whole define stage in the whole process, right? So after the define stage, you should have a clear idea about who is the user for whom you are going to solve that problem. You have that clear picture of that user, and in design world we call it as a persona. Like a persona is a group of users representing a single user which for whom which you are going to solve the problem, right? So after that persona is defined in the second stage, you give that persona a lot of scenarios in which the user may have problems for which you are going to design the solutions. So take the persona, give them scenarios, you will get a lot of customer journeys and you will get a lot of pain points for what you are going to design. So the next step is design. Now after you get the whole journey charted out on paper or any tool you can use online, you start scribbling. Take whatever you have, like take pen and paper and start drawing wireframes if it is a digital app which you are going to use, or just have some rough sketches which you are going to make if it is a physical product. Just start putting things out on paper from your mind. It will give you a clear visual of what your brain look like on paper. That is how you start designing for any product, because you already have discovered a proper problem, you have already defined that problem, and now it's time to map out your brain on the papers. So once that is done, validate that with again the users and start converting these rough wireframes into actual designs. If it is a digital product, you start designing UI screens and prototype and so on and on. If it is a physical product, you again start sketching on paper, you make 3D molds and make concept models and stuff like that, how it goes in the physical product design world, and reach a state where you have a prototype or an MVP, we can call a minimum viable product, to show to the target users whose problem you are solving. So that's all about how should we approach a problem to solve by this process which we discussed: discover, define and design. So that's all for this episode. So now that we know about the process to design great products, right? Discover, define and design. On next episode we will be discussing the best case studies by which great designers have solved great problems, right? And I know that you are doing it. But still, I would like to remind you that please like and share this video and put down your queries in the comment section below, and I will get back to you on that. Thank you so much.